Welcome to episode number 6 of the SwanBank podcast. You're really welcome to join us today, wherever you're listening, whenever you're listening. I'm joined, as I am every week, by Catherine Stevens. Catherine, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Sam. I'm very good. You're going to ask me what I've been up to this week, and we are in lockdown, so I've pretty much been working. Cooking for all of the family because no one else seems capable of cooking anything in our house. You are getting some stuff off your chest
straight away this week.
My family don't listen to this podcast. Jamie says, why would I want to listen to you going on? So I'm pretty safe, really.
Wow. What's the best thing you've cooked this week?
Oh, I did a very interesting Mexican mix kind of thing with leftover chicken from Sunday dinner. So that was quite good.
Mexican mix?
Yeah, so cooked chicken
nice.
With fajita seasoning on and some spicy rice mixed in and peppers and tomatoes. And then I served it with sweet potato fries, which were loaded
nice.
Fries.
Yeah, love
with
that.
Like mozzarella and Mexican like guacamole and all that kind of stuff.
Very nice. I made burritos last week.
Oh, similar.
But made everything from scratch. So even made my own wraps.
Wow. How did that work out for you?
It was okay.
Okay. Would you do it again?
Well, I mean, there was some in the freezer which I didn't know about, so I wish I'd sort of just got the wraps out and defrosted them. But
you've been on holiday, haven't you?
I have been on holiday.
So actually you needed to fill in your time with something, probably. So you made burritos.
That's true.
Wow.
They're very nice, though. Very nice. Made my own beans. Made my own refried beans.
Very good.
So that was nice. Some nice chicken. Hey, as you say, nice chicken. Lovely stuff.
Very good.
I've been off this week.
Yeah. How's that been for you, Sam?
It's been okay.
Okay.
It's been okay.
You've had a haircut?
I have had a haircut. All my hair's gone.
I think it looks good.
Thank you very much. It was a big deal, I have to say.
We had a conversation in our house about your haircut.
Did you?
Yeah. It really has got to that level.
Oh, wow.
Where the exciting conversation in our house is Sam's new haircut.
Wow.
So, but I was right from the start. I'm like, yeah, that works.
I didn't know what shape my head was before last Saturday. Now we all know. It's an egg. So we can all rest safe in the knowledge that I've got an egg-shaped head. It was a big deal, I have to say. It was one of those things where you think, I can't believe I'm like getting worked up about such a trivial thing as hair.
Your hair was quite long, though.
It was quite long. There wasn't very much of it. And it was the sort of thing where every time you look in the mirror, you think, I really wish there was something different going on up there.
I think you've done the right thing.
I agree.
If it matters, if my opinion matters, I think you've done the right thing. You've done a bit of a James Adams worship leader, haven't you?
Honestly, I just wanted to be like him. Really?
Well, who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Actually, I don't.
Why not?
Oh, lots of reasons.
Okay, that's a conversation for next week, maybe. Let me make a note.
I so hope James Adams is listening to this as well now. Shall I just offend everybody?
Yeah, please do.
In one go.
Let's pick all the bald people and let's offend them all.
Does Gerard listen to this?
Yeah, I doubt it. Do your worst.
Very good. There you go.
Oh, gosh.
I'm just realising, so I'm going off on holiday for a few days. We're both having a pre-Easter break so that we're in one piece by the time we get to live streaming for Easter, aren't we? And I'm thinking I might have lost my filter.
Yeah, good.
So Sam knows this about me, that when I get a bit kind of tired and I'm ready for a little bit of a break, I lose a bit of filter.
When Catherine starts insulting people, you know that she needs a week off.
Oh dear.
I'm excited for when you come back with a shaved head, though. That'll be exciting for everyone.
That is not going to happen. Perhaps what I'll tell you about is my hair routine at some point, because I don't know, does Alicia listen to this? Do other people?
You know what? The best compliment she's given me in a long time is that she said she now stopped listening to our regular Friday podcast and listens to us instead.
Oh, that is so good.
I know.
Shout out for Alicia.
Shout out for Alicia.
Great.
Last week, we were a bit out of sync in our time off. Mm-hmm. So she had like the whole of last week off, whereas I started on Wednesday. And so she'd had her like DOS, don't want to do anything days on Monday and Tuesday.
Okay.
And then by Wednesday, by the time I was off, it was like, right, I'm ready to like do some productive things now, which I was not game for. I was not game for.
No.
So bless her, Alicia has painted the stairs.
Oh, that's good.
She's it looks like we've got a brand new kitchen because we found some cheap stuff from B&Q that you could recover your worktops with.
Yes.
So we've now got wooden worktops where they were before like weird black stuff.
So you've done like a makeover.
So it looks like a whole new kitchen. We put new door handles on yesterday. It's all very exciting.
Fabulous. What colour are your units?
They're white.
Oh, well, that's good.
So white units,
like
wooden worktops, and then we've got some new black handles.
Oh.
And we might even, I mean, I say we, Alicia might even redo the grout around the tiles, so the grout's black as well.
There is lots of people are using grey grout at the
Yeah.
moment, aren't they? Which it kind of makes sense because grout goes grey anyway, doesn't it? So you might as well start that colour and then it's fine. You can hide the muck then, which
That's
I
true.
feel is always a good thing.
Indeed.
So I'm glad to hear about Alicia, because the last conversation I had with you around Alicia was that she had done a lateral flow test in the living room and she'd made
Spewed
herself
on the
gag
mirror.
and threw up. So that sounds like a better story
Yeah.
than the one you told me
Indeed,
before.
indeed. She is wonderful. If I've ever said anything offensive about her in the past, I apologise and I take it all back. She's great.
Excellent. You're going to be in so much trouble when she listens to this on Friday.
It's all good. It's all good. She's well used to it by now. And honestly, she knows that she could share all sorts of things about me that would be terrible. So,
Okay.
Hey.
Maybe I'll invite her onto a podcast sometime.
Please don't. Okay.
Great.
What's been going on in the life of the church over the last... What have I missed in the last week?
Well, your Bible study went really well, I have to say.
Thank you very much.
So well done for that.
Thank
It was
you very
really
much.
good. Funny thing is, I got a message from someone in our church, one of the house groups that are using it, saying the Bible study was great this morning. The questions were fabulous. And I'm like, that was Sam's Bible study.
Yes!
They don't say that when
Get
it's
it.
mine.
Did you get a
Flipping
text yesterday about...
No. I didn't get a text either my Bible studies, but for yours I did.
Oh, yeah.
Which says to me, you should do all the Bible studies in
Great.
future, Sam. That's what I'm taking from
Great.
that.
If you're listening, I will send you your check in the post.
Oh, we
Thank
had
you
a
very much.
really good moment. You would have loved Sunday morning.
Okay. Would
So-
I have loved it, or was I glad I wasn't there?
You would have laughed. I know you would have laughed. So, Daniel Miles, techie extraordinaire,
Yeah.
who we just love,
Yeah.
has
Are
somehow
you going to insult another bald man? No.
probably
Yeah, great.
he's rigged up this thing to put a camera on, which involves
Okay.
2 6-foot kind of
Yeah, it's
tubes.
great.
It is, but I did say, Dan, where are we going to keep that in usual time? So
Do you know where it is now?
I do. It's propping up at the side of the church.
There you go.
But actually, to give him his due, it's fine.
It's amazing. It's not just
Yeah.
saying it's fine is doing that thing a disservice. It's
Oh.
unreal.
Well, it's fine until we get kids in there, and if a child pulls that on top of them, it will not be fine. So we
Yeah.
will have to find a more permanent home, or we'll have to attach it to the wall somehow.
My suggestion was that we did it all around the aisles of church.
That would be really interesting.
It'd be
But-
amazing.
So Joel
Yeah.
was on that camera,
Yeah.
and so if you imagine it, like the camera now like slides
It's
along
amazing.
seamlessly,
It looks like weird,
effortlessly.
like Hillsong or something.
But in our rehearsal, all I could see was Joel looking like he was swatting some kind of wasp that had come near to him, and it was the most dramatic. He could have got an Oscar for the performance. So of course we were just laughing our heads off at it. But after I said, "What were you doing? Was there like a wasp or something?" I imagined there was this huge hornet or something that had appeared, and he just tripped on it. But it was the most dramatic trip I have ever seen in my life. Honestly, it was. So that was Joel on
Wow.
Sunday morning.
Apparently, he also went to slide the camera and did like a little push, but didn't realise that his headphones were still attached to the tripod. So he
Oh.
pushed the camera and then went.
Maybe
threw
that
it
was
off.
it.
Maybe
Maybe
that's what it
that
was.
was the event.
Maybe that's what it
It
was.
was very good though. I wish we'd got that on camera because that would have
Wonderful.
been great.
There's we need to develop like a good curling game with that sliding thing. I reckon that's something for.
I think it's multi-purpose, that
Oh,
sliding thing,
I
without
agree.
a doubt.
I agree.
So we could do all kinds of
Stair
things
lift.
with that. It's some kind of like skateboard thing
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
Amazing.
Could do all kinds of
Possibilities
things.
are endless.
They are great.
Amazing.
Let's talk about something meaningful because we've probably spent the first 10 minutes talking about rubbish.
Indeed. There has been loads of stuff in the news
Yes.
over the last week. A couple of times we've done this and we've been scrabbling around for random things to talk about, whereas this week we're a bit sport for choice in what we can delve into. So
Yeah.
what's been the thing that's really stood out?
Yeah,
this
I think. I mean, there've been a few things we could have talked about. International Women's Day, which was on Monday, so we could have talked around that. There've been some really unpleasant things going on in the news that we could unpick, but we've decided perhaps not to go down that route at the moment. But I mean, the big thing really is around Meghan and Harry, the Meghan and Harry interview with Oprah Winfrey.
Indeed.
And all that's come from
Yeah.
that. So I'm talking about this, Sam, but I haven't actually watched the interview.
Have you not? Interesting.
No, I haven't. I've watched news around it, but I haven't
Is
actually
that out of
sat down.
choice or is that just
No, it's not out of choice. I haven't really had the 2 hours to sit down
Yeah.
and watch it, but I have watched clips and bits
Yeah.
and pieces from it, but I haven't actually watched the whole interview, which because I've got some time off next week, I'll probably sit and do that next week.
Have you watched the James Corden interview with Prince Harry?
Again, I've caught up bits and pieces of it, but not the full lot.
Yeah.
So I did see them have an afternoon tea on the top of the bus.
Indeed,
But I haven't watched the whole of it.
You should watch it. It's because, I mean, the interview itself with Oprah is very insightful, but I'd say that the James Corden thing is like a bite-sized version. It doesn't go into the same sort of detail, but it does give you a really helpful overview of what some of the obvious issues were for Harry and Meghan in that situation.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, so I mean, we obviously have all sorts of kind of things that have been shared, and as I say, I haven't watched it all, but I have very much picked up the edited highlights really, and I think what's been really interesting for me is to look at the role of social media in this.
Yeah.
And I had a really interesting conversation with someone just yesterday around when Diana died, if social media had been what it is today, what would that have looked like?
Yeah.
So it's been really interesting to think around that and actually whether we like it or not, and whether it's helpful or not. And I think it's not helpful, but the reality is that all of those who are in the spotlight today will have some kind of trial by social media because that is the context in which we're living, and how that's managed and how we as Christians engage with that, I think really matters.
Yeah, definitely. I think this whole conversation has been really interesting for me, because I'm not somebody who's particularly interested in the royal family. I'm quite happy for them to go on with their stuff over there, and I'll sort of carry on separate from them. But it's something that I think a lot of people feel like they've become experts on because they've watched The Crown.
Yes.
So, for example, I have no recollection at all of the whole Diana thing.
Right.
And I don't know what year it happened, but I was probably 5 or 6 at that point.
Yeah.
And so I have no memory of her or the situation or anything like that, but feel like I do have some sort of insight because I've watched a Netflix series about it.
Yeah, I was 22 when Diana died, and it was a month before I was getting married.
Oh wow!
And did you know she died on the same day as Mother Teresa?
Really?
Yeah, she did. But I mean, it was huge in the media. I mean, it was just massive.
Yeah.
The outpouring of grief was massive, and because so many people loved her. I mean, there were some who were very much, royalists who very much fell in the camp of supporting the Queen and the traditional royal family.
Yeah.
But actually, for many of the ordinary people, she was massively loved. So she was called the Queen of Hearts.
Right. Okay.
Because she won people over.
Yeah.
Because she had such a compassionate heart.
Yeah.
For people. I mean, she was the one who would go and hold the hand of someone who had AIDS in a time when actually that was just massive and people were just so fearful of HIV AIDS, whereas she went and she was groundbreaking in that. Landmines, she actually went and walked over a place which was known to have landmines and speak to some of the victims of landmine explosions and that kind of thing. She was just there amongst the people and so that was huge.
But it seems to me there's a lot of similarities here because it's somebody out of that setting which is often very silent and very polite about whatever's going on around. Yeah. But it's somebody out of that context choosing to speak up and speak out. Yeah. Not necessarily about the same issues, but it's of a similar sort of gravity, it feels like.
And so Diana did a groundbreaking interview.
With Panorama.
Was it Martin Bashir? I think, I don't know, I'm casting my mind back and I might be wrong. But that was massive because no one spoke out in that way, and she did. And I remember watching that interview, and she was speaking about her experiences in a way that I had never ever heard anyone from the royal family do before, because they pulled rank, they didn't share, they did not air their dirty laundry
Yeah.
in public, and yet she spoke out, and she did so with, in my view, with real compassion, and you could tell it was a really hard interview for her. You could just tell by, her face was flushed. She had that nervous thing on her neck that people get when, when they're talking about something that really matters to them and they know that this is hard. And that did divide opinion for some people, but actually it won a lot of people over as well, because they saw, that actually she was someone who loved her husband, but actually he the story seems to be that he had been pushed into that marriage, and actually he always loved Camilla. And that in itself is an interesting one around marriages that are arranged rather than allowing someone to choose for themselves, and what that can mean into the future. But so Meghan and Harry, Harry obviously comes off the back of all of that, and of losing his mum, and of seeing how that played out, and trying to unpick what the truth behind all of that was. And none of us really will ever know the truth of that, I guess. But Harry, Harry loved his mum and lost his mum. And it seems Harry loves his wife and doesn't want to lose his wife, and so you can't blame him for that.
I think that's a lot of the conclusion I've come to, is you put yourself in a similar situation, and you probably want to do the same thing. You want to take you and your family out of a situation where there is, all this turmoil and struggle and what seems to be feelings of loneliness and isolation. You don't want to live in a place like that.
No. And Harry has never been a fan of the media, has he? I mean, there's all sorts of times when he's spoken out and when he's just kind of, dismissed them, and he hasn't wanted them to be involved in his life. He's wanted to be able to get on and do stuff without having the intrusion of the media. Some would say, well, you're born at the royal family, it comes with the territory. But actually he's chosen to step away from that, and from my perspective, actually, that's his choice. I realise people listening to this might have very different views to mine, and I'm just sharing what I think about it. But I think maybe it would be good for us to have a conversation around social media. What we do with that, around the fact that with social media we'll always get a particular version of events. I was going to say a particular version of the truth. I mean, some might say you don't get any version of the truth with social media. I think we do, but I think we get a particular, and some might say sometimes a twisted version of the truth. But how we hold on to, or how we try and discern what is truth, in order to form our thoughts, is an interesting one, I think, for us.
I don't know if you've ever watched the Social Network documentary.
That's another. Maybe I'll do that on my week. That's something that's on my to-do list.
Because I remember one of the things that was really, really eye-opening about that documentary, was how different my Facebook timeline would look to somebody else's.
Right.
And so when it comes to the big news events or the big political events, so take Brexit or the general election, for example, my timeline would have been full of things that were completely different to maybe your timeline, because friends with different people, I hit like on different things. I have different sort of internet history, for example. And so therefore the social media networks sort of curate a timeline that fits into what your perspective already is, almost. And there's very little that will come up that will really challenge what you already think. And that completely changed my perspective on people who I disagreed with in terms of politics or sort of big events, because if you come to understand that maybe they're seeing a different version of the truth to what you're seeing, then I can take no personal blame or whatever the word is for them having a different opinion from me, because ultimately maybe it's an opinion that's like given to them, or they haven't got an opportunity to break out of, which then causes you to reflect a bit more personally on, well, if somebody else is dictating to you what you're going to think and the opinions you're going to form, what do I have to say about that as an individual, but also as a Christian? Like, where am I putting, who am I trusting to help me form my opinions? And is that a wise, am I doing that with with
Yeah.
sensible and wise people.
So a good conversation for us to have to unpick that a bit is how are our opinions formed in the first place?
Yeah.
So we could go right back to our childhood. So our nature.
Yeah.
That how we were born, I think, our nurture,
Yeah, for sure.
how we were brought up, all affect how we see things, don't they?
Yeah. And our life experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, on the face of it, we are maybe very similar people, but ultimately we grew up in completely different places.
Yeah.
Our experience of life is completely different.
Yeah.
With different gender, different age.
Yes.
We're bound to have a different lens and perspective on life.
Yeah.
Even though, in a lot of ways, we'd be labelled as, well, you're white British, so you think in this way or you act in this way. Whereas beneath the surface, there are all sorts of things that actually inform the way we think and feel.
Yeah. 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 And that's true. And I think that age does have a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, do you remember a life without social media?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
I think I had a MySpace account when I was 12.
Right.
And that was probably I can just about remember life without a phone that could do stuff on the internet.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, ever since I was in high school, I had a mobile phone and was on it all the time.
And that in itself is
completely different.
It's like a different world, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So the pace of life, how we receive and share information, and so actually, you will see a lot of people of a certain age, so a slightly older age group, who will believe everything that they're told on social media.
Yeah.
And again, I had a conversation with a family member at the weekend about someone else who had shared something that was clearly not true on social media, and that had been challenged. But it's like, why? Well, I've shared it because that's what I received. Yeah, but it's not true. But why would it be on there if it wasn't true? Was the response? And it's like, wow, there's so there is a group of people who've learnt to use social media, but who haven't been brought up with that ability or the need to be able to discern things in the same way.
I think it's the need to do it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the sort of media was like 20, 25 years ago, but my impression is that it was a much more reliable source of truth or information, at least, than what we see.
Yeah, I think if you went to the broadsheets, obviously they bring their particular leaning to it. Yeah. But I think there would a lot more of the reporting would be based on some kind of fact rather than actually now. I don't particularly read the newspapers now because actually I just don't trust anything I would read in there. Yeah. And actually I feel quite annoyed when I see people picking up certain newspapers, and when I see Christians, if I go and, there have been times when I've visited people in their homes and I've seen a particular newspaper on there, and I've thought, how can you read that? And I've had to just back off from that and think, actually, that people are free to do what they want to do, but when I know people are swallowing stuff that some of the tabloids are printing, I'm like, how can you do that? Yeah. There's a real naivety sometimes around it. That sounds awful. Does that sound really judgmental? I don't mean to be.
I don't think so, because it comes back to what we were saying at the beginning, doesn't it? About how these opinions are formed are based on all sorts of factors that often are out of our control. Yeah. Almost.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that may be helpful to reflect on is what are some of the ways we respond to this?
Yes.
As a Christian.
Yeah. So can I give you an example, which is a really controversial for some, not for you and me. It's like a no-brainer for us. Yeah. But so a few years ago, I've got a friend who's a minister, and he started calling out some of his church members who were sharing something going around on social media, which is all about the Robinson's jam.
Right. Okay.
Right. So Robinson's jam.
Good jam.
Good jam. But they're absolutely. But their logo included a gollywog,
Oh, right, okay.
right?
Yeah.
And people used to actually collect these like pin badges and stuff around that. And a number of people in his church were kind of on Facebook were pressing the, bring back the gollywog.
Wow.
And so he started to get in touch with his church members and said, do you know what you're saying here? They had no idea. Now we might say they ought to have had this is just unacceptable.
Yeah.
Within, it was always unacceptable, but actually now you ought to know that it's unacceptable. But they didn't.
Wow.
And so the power of social media, this is going round, and a number of our Christian people were just sharing it and thinking that's fine, actually.
Wow.
So how do we call people out? How do we challenge that? How do we recognise that there's a lot of social media that's not acceptable?
It's a real challenge, isn't it? Because it calls us to question the basis of it. Back to that conversation we had before. Where do we go when we want to form an opinion about something? Yeah. And I think often, I'm probably guilty of it. You read the news, you go to your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed or wherever, and you form an opinion based on that, and you forget to go back to the real root of all truth, if you like, which is the Word of God, isn't it? And the Holy Spirit speaking to you to unpack some of the truths you read in Scripture and how that relates to what we see going on.
And I think what you've just said is key there, that we have to unpack it.
Yeah.
And so whereas actually we might be tempted to get some of our truth and understanding of what's going on in the world from reading a 2-minute article on Facebook or whatever, or reading some tweets or whatever, actually we cannot be lazy with that. And so we need to go back to if we're thinking about getting our truth from our scriptures, we need to go back to our scriptures. We need to read them. We need to study them. We need to go in depth and not just read at face value. Actually, but to think, actually, what is God wanting to say to us, and how is God speaking into today? Because I believe that the Bible is relevant for us today, but we can't do a lazy reading of it. Otherwise we might end up falling into the trap of what we're doing with social media, which is just reading it at face value and taking it and not thinking, right, what's the foundations of it? What was the culture of the time? What was going on within the context of that? So some of Paul's letters, for example, what was Paul living with when he was writing to the church in Corinthians? What was happening in that church at the time? What was going on? What were the issues for them? What was he speaking into? And how might that speak into our culture today and the context of our churches today, and so on?
If somebody's listening to this and thinking, well, that puts me off reading the Bible because I don't feel like I've got the sort of level of intellect or experience to be able to do some of that stuff, what would you say to that person?
I would say that for me, I think we best explore the Bible in community, actually. So I'm someone who has to really push myself to sit down and to pick up the books that the wider reading around the Bible to help me understand it. I do it. I've got a responsibility to do it. But actually, I learn best when I'm sitting in a room with other people and we're throwing out ideas, and I externally process. So I just throw things out there, and sometimes I think, oh, that's really good. And I think, oh, take that back, put that back in my mouth before it's come out. But so for us in our church, actually, that's something that we're building up. A cheeky little plug now for our small groups. Sam, do you want to tell us a bit about our small groups?
A really great opportunity if you're not part of a small group already, or you've been in one for a while but you want a bit of a fresh beginning. Then we are relaunching a whole bunch of small groups, probably May, June time of this year, with some key focuses around building community, about growing our discipleship and doing mission in local pockets around the city. Really exciting. Lauren Brabs is doing all sorts of great work around our small groups. So if you're interested in that, you can get in touch with the office and somebody will point you in the right direction.
Yeah, great. And I guess what do we take from our conversation today? I think for me, my takeaway from this is that I need to be careful with how I read around stuff, with what I watch, and to approach everything that I read with that sense of, Lord, help me to understand where you are in all of this, what's going on, and how I can be someone who recognises the importance of standing for truth, but also being able to speak out as well if we feel that that's important, not to remain silent when we see untruths going unchallenged, but to be willing to challenge those things.
I think that's really important, and I think there's something about an intentionality in all of it as well. So, take the Harry and Meghan stuff as an example. What is it that I want to consume around this?
Yeah.
Where am I going to go to try and find what is the truth? To work out what the truth is, not so that I can form an opinion for an opinion's sake, but so that if this is something that I can't be silent around, whether it's around the issues around race or the issues around mental health or whatever it is, then I am informed enough and equipped enough to be able to stand up and speak some truth into that untruth, whether we find that on a social media, wherever we find that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So a challenge to be informed, to not be lazy with how we're informed, and to speak out.
Great stuff. Next week will be slightly different. Catherine's on holiday, as she said, so we will have a special guest on.
Oh, are you going to tell us who it is? Are you going to just make us wait?
I'll tell you that I'm going to make you wait, mostly because I haven't arranged anything yet. So we're all waiting with bated breath to see what's going to happen next week.
Fabulous.
But it'll be a hoot, whatever happens. Thank you for listening. As always, you can catch us on a Monday with some recaps from a Sunday, or on a Friday with one of these catch-ups. And check us out on Facebook and Instagram for all the stuff that's going on week to week in the life of our church. But for now, have a good week. See you soon.